Hey, Vibe Tribe. Staty. We are live. You are rocking with your favorite friendly entertainer, stickity, motivator with the vibes that are greater. That is your girl and your Odyssey. Also known as Jenny Beats on Spotify and on YouTube and your Odyssey. That's ENNYAR Odyssey. Stickity. So, I still have the Oracle cards from a few episodes ago, and within an episode, I was reading past cards. Well, past red cards. And the closer that you draw to your sweet soul, the sweeter that you become. And I would notice that as the more that you are distinctively original to who you are, things and stuff and such, you draw closer to your sweeter soul. I'm just sweet enough to kill a diabetic. If you didn't know, now you know. Let's see this. And the sweeter you become, the closer that you find yourself, finding yourself and learning of yourself, because perspective is stickity, and perspective is a part of the evolution of company. To share time, to share vibes within yourself, within making conscious choices to be sincere to the essence of your desires, to the essence of your motivations in life. And if you have responsibility, did that responsibility coincide with your choices and how you are reacting and responding and being within the world? Things and such. And a little bit of motivation within the Oracle cards. Stickity. The fault that you see in your brother is really in you. That is stickity. Whenever we can spot out character traits, choice mannerisms. The mannerism of how you choose to coincide your choices with your perspectives. Are you risking being yourself and being different? Because that will draw you to a sense that you find love and happiness within that instance. the faults that you see within other people. You must note it. Not other people. People that are outside of the notion of your lifestyle, your outlooks on life, your motivations within life, your judgments. The judgments that you imply within people, things, and stuff and such, characters, souls that may or may not contribute to your life, your happiness, your state of well-being, your state of perspective. Often we read people's opinions to gain opinions of how we are going to react within the world and things and stuff and such. Like a sculptor, carve friends out of stone. I would begin to mention that to carve stone requires time, requires patience, requires devotion and loyalty to the task. The task, be it to create art, from within the materials that you surround yourself with. To carve friends out of stone, and there's tenacity, there's the conscious choice and effort, there's the intention to build that person. You know, often you see the potential within me that I don't see within myself. And I notice the potential within you that you may not notice within yourself. And, you know, if there is something about someone that you don't accept, you must notice that within yourself. Be accountable for the instances that sometimes whenever you are very similar to a person, you know, there could be a give or take to how you get along with that person. Because often people that are just like us, we tend to push away. We tend to challenge. And challenge is good within the essence of relatability, within the essence of communication, within the essence of things and stuff and such. Within the essence of things and stuff and such. I think it's healthy to troll your friends. So I was rewatching an episode with Kit, and then I was watching an episode where it was just me. And I am thankful that y'all have been patient with my presence here. I had originally started streaming on mobile platforms, and on the mobile platforms, I became really popular really quick, and I was not aware of my success because I was imagining that everyone has the same and or similar experiences in life. And I'm originally from New York. Whenever I moved to the South, I, for the first time, had to distinguish and recognize the essence of racism, the essence of, people judging your character by the way that you appear. And that's definitely a certain perspective. The fault within that, not having a mind that is available for evolution. To evolve, you must, try things you've never tried before. You must challenge yourself. It's challenging to recognize a fault within someone and automatically hold it against that person. I am aware. To have forgiveness for myself is to begin to understand how to practice forgiveness for how I view the world, how I view and judge people's opinions, perspectives. Often we are willing to die for our opinions, not willing to recognize where we can evolve that. Sadie. And to evolve that, you must step out of your comfort zone. You must make a choice to notice whenever you recognize a fault within someone. And recognize the instances that people may view you within a similar light, within a similar perspective, within a similar stance of judgment, things and stuff and such. While others are seeking clothes, money, a lover is seeking his beloved. And I read that, I remember reading that, and I can't remember how I had translated that within my understanding. While people are seeking clothes and, for approval, clothes for an essence that they may know themselves better. That they may accept themselves. oh, I'm wearing the new trend, things and stuff and such. When in reality, that can draw you farther away from who you are. Just because, it has the Jones effect. Everybody wants what the Joneses have, is how the Jones effect works. And there's essences of choice. There's an essence of choice there. I always enjoy chats. Just because I enjoy chats doesn't mean that I live by the notions and by the opinions that are stated within those chats. Things and stuff and such. You must agree to disagree and teach yourself how to agree to disagree. To agree to disagree, I must notice a fault within a person. And rather than judging that person, I can notice essences of relatability. Sometimes your best friend will end up being somebody that you disagreed with the most. Somebody who may trigger you. Sometimes you become closer with a person. You become closer with an acceptance. Whenever you can recognize the similarities rather than this person is a Trump supporter. I can't dare support a Trump supporter. That is freaking unstickety. And mind you, I'm respectful of people within my relatability would be. I understand, you have a name. It's not until often later in life that, you realize that the people that we judge are often, the people that we have a lot in common with. You just may not recognize it within judging a book by its cover. The fault that you see in your brother is really in you. I was mentioning, working on yourself. Working on being happier within your perspective. Things and stuff and such. I've been writing a lot more, and within my essences and times, of me time. Times that I can enjoy myself, nature, and things and stuff and such. 3-year break. And within that time, I found myself. And when I found myself, I scared myself. And I'm not afraid of people, scenarios, circumstance, things and stuff and such. There's a phobia. I can't remember the name of the phobia. But it's a fear of your own success. And sometimes I have found myself running from who I am. Because I haven't taught myself how to navigate through my, character flaws, human flaws, to recognize that and to find the beauty within that. To imagine yourself. Things and stuff. Imagine yourself. And imagine yourself from a third-party perspective, third-person perspective. And try to point out the opinion of you and who you are. The criticism that you absorb, if not recognized and heard with, consumed with the, the saying, with a grain of salt. Take it, as a grain of salt. Try to see yourself the way that people see yourself is trippy. To gain perspective on yourself and not realize if you were in a dome, like a bubble dome, and within that bubble dome, you were isolated from the world. And maybe for a few years, maybe for, who knows? You were isolated from the world, and then you reintroduce yourself to the world, and you recognize that I'm not in Kansas anymore type vibe. And then realize that you had a lot to do with the progression and the digression within life and society. The way that things are within society. And maybe you didn't realize that you were blessing society. Maybe you didn't realize that you were entertaining society. You're aware of views and things and stuff, and you don't realize the impact that you have within society, until you can recognize the commonalities between yourself and the rest of the world, and you can draw closer to those that you find a difference, whether that's a difference in lifestyle, a difference in perspective, a difference in upbringing, to be considerate that we can be wrong in life. To recognize where we're wrong in life. To recognize the triggers within the choices that we make, of what's right and wrong in life. To not be too harsh on yourself. And being too harsh on yourself, sometimes we sabotage. We subconsciously make choices that are opposite, that be it tandem, with the things that we desire. And something that I would recognize within your general society is that people recognize fault, and they'll define you by fault. And, you'll notice within a relationship, you'll remember more of the bad times than the good. It's the contrast in life that brings us perspective. And, perspective, I say that word all the time. And that's because I recognize the faults within the world. And I'm able to have relatability, parallels drawn between the fact that we're not perfect, and sometimes our imperfections, and sharing in our imperfections, sharing in our vulnerabilities, sharing in our weaknesses, sharing within our faults that we recognize within ourselves. And then to realize that whenever you don't view yourself as the world may view you, you just carry on viewing yourself through the choices that you make within the world, and how you associate that with society, schools of thought, and the relevance that you hold within the people, places, and things. Do you define yourself by the choices that you make, the people that you engage with, the foundation of truths, morals, and beliefs, and how you freaking, from that belief, how do you view the world? Do you recognize people's faults and shame them for it, or do you recognize people's faults and glorify their strengths and offer perspective that would feed the intuition of the subconscious to recognize within that person that your faults may end up actually being your strong points within life. To mention that we live in a shallow world, and to really enjoy life, I believe that you must experience depth, struggle, contrast, pleasure, pain, love, and intolerance. Make a conscious choice to act and intentionally view the world differently, not through the lens of the people that you subscribe to, not even your family and friends, because whenever you find fault within the world and you don't recognize it within yourself, you can't be upset with yourself or the world for having expectations. If you have expectations within the world, you expect the world to be a certain way. You expect people, places or things, individuals to understand you, to coexist with you. You must not humble yourself. You must challenge yourself to reinvigorate, to rejuvenate your experiences, your knowledge, because we're not perfect, and the more that you recognize that you're not perfect, you recognize the flaws within yourself. You can begin to work on the flaws within yourself, but how do you evolve yourself without not changing a conscious choice and many conscious choices subconsciously within one conscious choice? There are many subconscious neurons firing within your mind to bring a thought, idea, concept from your subconscious to your conscious mind, because your subconscious mind filters through the thoughts that you allow yourself to think. Sometimes you can allow yourself to think certain ways, and you may struggle with how you feel, because there must be a balance between how you feel and how you perceive the world. There's many faults within that line of thought to really begin to enhance your life. Enhance your knowledge. Don't be scared of opinions, because it's not the opinions that are gonna, tuck you in at night, that are going to be in your life past judgment from afar. or judgment from a few encounters. Because the fault that you recognize, and sometimes I don't recognize whenever I am conveying a thought or a feeling. Sometimes I convey it opposite of how I intended it in my mind to be expressed, to be communicated, to be understood, to be heard. Because rather than craving the attention, the company from individuals that you don't notice fault within, how could you really learn? How could you really grow? You're just going to carry on in life with a bitter perspective towards the individuals that probably are the only individuals within your life that would offer you the right perspective, the right understanding to shift your mentality. And once your mentality is shifted from a standpoint of bitterness due to the way that we perceive an individual, I will tell you from personal experience that within 2 long-term relationships that I've been in, I realized that looks are more of a reason to have resentment, because often people don't recognize their faults. And just because you are attractive, that doesn't mean that you can't be better. You can't have self-awareness. I didn't have the right self-awareness, and I didn't have the right people around me that could offer me the perspective that I needed to recognize myself and how I interact with the world, to recognize myself and how, I could highlight certain mannerisms, certain triggers that, trigger a lack mindset, or that trigger a fault within the system of mind, conscious, subconscious. And how we define ourselves. Because we often define ourselves through the lens of perspective that we gather from those that tell us about ourselves, rather than having the adult, perspective and notion to view yourself lovingly. Surround yourself with individuals that you may not, make the choice to have the knowledge and experience to learn a part of yourself. to love a part of yourself, or to learn a part of the world and or somebody's perspective within the world that you would never be having the availability to understand perspective. I mean, why do you watch movies? You watch movies so you can enjoy the perspective that is not yours. Yet you leave the movie theater and you define yourself through the notions of relatability between yourself and the movie. Well, of course, you chose the movie. There's something about that movie that resonated with you, that that you identified through perspective, that may be interesting to explore the journey of story. Beautiful thing about a story is the different characters within the story, that add to the story. Me, I used to be one of those individuals that would notice the faults within people, and then I would automatically reject the thought of even coexisting, because I had already had a predetermined judgment due to, based on the trends, based on what my friends would think, based on how I felt my peers would view me. And often we'll make choices in life that lessen the impact of criticism, because gosh, if we were to have some actual perspective on ourselves rather than some tailored, passive, and facetedly trained. A diamond has facets. If you were to look at a diamond through the perspective of geometry, it has many faces. If you were to view it, head on, it would appear as a wall. Not until you become closer, you gain perspective and realize that it's not just a wall, that there are more sides to the wall. Whenever you look at a diamond, or you appreciate a diamond, you recognize. Alright, so if the diamond was human size, you would begin to notice that there are sides to the diamond. There are sides to the diamond. And maybe each wall is a different color. Maybe each wall is a different graffiti art. Maybe each wall showed you something that truly is relatable and enjoyable. We enjoy sharing commonalities. You must train yourself to enjoy sharing differences, because it's often I make the conscious choice to coexist with individuals that within the more shallow times of my life I would have never hung out with, I would have never had a conversation with, I would have never had the experience to gain the knowledge of perspective. And then I would begin to mention that I found solace within sharing within your faults. Sometimes you can share gratitude and you can share stigginess amongst your accomplishments. And the same goes for your faults. Just because you have faults, you must build on those. Sometimes I highlight my faults because I'm aware that, there's more good within me. There's more sustainability within relationship, maintaining happiness, growth and evolution. Some of the happiest relationships that I have ever been in, including friendships and acquaintances, often have been with individuals that I would be at fault to mention that, I viewed myself as, you don't look the same as me, or you don't listen to the same music, you don't, enjoy the same political rhetoric. That's a fault. To not consciously choose, make a choice that challenges your beliefs. How are you going to carry on in life, saying that you have, found fulfillment, that you have found, yourself, if you're constantly only living your life by the notions of what's trendy or what your family thinks? Because often your family will want you to be a doctor and you might just want to be an artist. And, you shouldn't have to even think of the weight, burden, or, unsightliness that you may feel if, you're living your life to please other people. I understand that, pleasing people is pleasurable. It is pleasurable. I mean, it gives you a reason to feel good about yourself. In life, you're not defined by who you hang out with, and you are judged by who you hang out with. And, judgment can, imply implication within definitive perspective. And I would realize that, how are you going to ever, learn that the stove freaking burns you if you don't, put your hand on the stove. Put your hand on the stove, towards a burner that you recognize was burners on. Things and stuff and such. You touch the stove. It's gonna, it's gonna burn ya. Things and stuff and such. Yeah, it has been 49 minutes. And we have been vibing, tribing, and sharing some life perspective. Stiggity. I have enjoyed this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned, for there's more variety content to be published, recorded, streamed, enjoyed, and enhanced, experimented with, and experimented out. 40-minute broadcast chatting with you, a 40-minute broadcast playing games, a 40-minute broadcast talking in chat, 40, things and stuff and such. Trying with, testing out formats and ways of streaming and recording videos and sharing to YouTube that I should have years ago. Because they definitely need any eroticy on their platforms. Any hoodles. I love you guys. And I hope that you enjoyed this broadcast. And as a matter of fact, I know that you have enjoyed the broadcast. And I'll stop calling it a broadcast because it is a video. It is a video. So, Roxy, are you okay? You alright? You alright, girl? Roxy, girl. Alright. I had to nudge her away from the door. Things and stuff and such. Stay tuned. There's more to be enjoyed within the broadcast of Stickity. Within the broadcast of Stickity. Stickity like there, Revive Tribe!